Bang owes. I've been waiting.
Oh
for
yes,
this.
yes you do. Yes you do. Go ahead.
Bang owes the Colorado Buffaloes an apology. He owes Deion Sanders an apology.
And Scott
He
Lewis an apology.
he owes Scott an apology. Courtney does too, but I'm here. All right,
Mm-hmm.
she could use her birthday as an
Courtney
excuse, but
on
Bang's
her
here.
birthday, we gonna bring
Hey,
her back
hey,
up to the podium on
hey,
Friday.
hey. She could have came in and just said that though, but nah. I owe the Colorado Buffaloes, their fans, the coaches, staff, the players, the administration, all of the graduates, Michael Westbrook, Cordell Stewart, Rashawn Salam, and his family. I owe all of them an apology. Kai,
Derek
there
White.
you go. Derek White too.
All
Get
of them.
there. Who else? Who was that? Chauncey Billups. Did he go to
Chauncey Billups.
Colorado?
I don't know if he went to Colorado. Did he go to
I owe
Colorado?
all of
I
them.
don't think so.
All of them
But
apology.
But yeah, it's just good to see because I felt like they were building towards this all last season, even though they were, still losing games, right? If you look at the margin of the losses, they were losing games close. They were getting worn down at the end because they didn't have the depth that you should have from a Power 5 roster because they turned over 80 guys in the transfer portal and guys leaving and whatnot. So I thought they made strides last year. Then I thought this year, early on, I saw them build on it, and I really like that in terms of their defensive prowess because I think that Shadur and Travis and Jimmy Horn and Western, those guys, they're talented enough they're going to score points on mostly everybody. But the defense was what was really holding them back. And they had a historically bad defense last season, but this year they have been incredible, particularly in the second half. They've only allowed 56 points all season in the second half. So they're averaging about a little less than 7 points a game in the second half. So if you aren't winning the game at halftime, statistically, you haven't been able to beat this Colorado team. There's been only one team, and that was Kansas State, which was the game that Travis Hunter went down with that injury initially, that was able to kind of weather the storm and score some points in the second half. But even that was a 3-point loss on a last-minute drive. They had to walk them down and do it. The way you have to beat Colorado is completely different than what you had to do last year. So shout out to Prime and those guys because they stood their ground, right? Everybody says you can't win this way. You can't turn over the roster at this high of a clip. You can't have people on the sideline. You can't have a DJ in the locker room. They did it their way, and they're still going. Now they're legitimately in the thick of the Big 12 hunt because Kansas State lost this past weekend. Texas Tech beat, I believe it was, Houston this past. Houston beat Texas Tech, I believe, but 2 losses they really needed to stay in the thick of the hunt. Now they're tied for second place right now. If they win out, you'll see Colorado play for a Big 12 title game, and they're favored for every game they play from here on out. So it's legit turned around in a way that not even people that believed in them thought it would turn around.
Here's the question I got for you, man, because I always say this on Twitter. I'm like, it's always mighty quiet on the timeline when the Buffaloes either win. Why do you think? Is it just the Deion factor of Deion being who he is, who Prime has always been, is why people hate this team? Or do you think there's more to it, why people never give them the respect that they get? I even tweeted, I think when they officially got ranked, somebody was like, well, they're going to be in a bullshit bowl. I'm like, yeah, but y'all said they were going to win 2 games.
Yeah. But the thing is, right, so what I did is I went back and I looked at, because I'm a writer, I work in the industry. I went and looked back at ESPN preseason rankings. I went back and looked at Yahoo Rivals. I went back and looked at On3, all these teams, right? And the preseason projections had Colorado as having one of the most difficult schedules in the country because everybody thought the Kansas, Arizona, Utah, and those teams were going to be much better than they are right now. They've kind of fallen off a little bit. But to me, it kind of spells out the bullshit because going into the year, you said they had one of the hardest schedules, right? And now what is everybody saying? Oh, the Big 12 ain't that good. Yep. They ain't playing nobody. No, but they've already played 4 teams over 500. 5 teams over 500. They're 3-2 in those games. And then the game that everybody kind of gave them shit for at the beginning of the season, the North Dakota State game, if you look at them in FCS football, they're undefeated since that game, ranked number 1 in FCS football. That game is going to end up being a quality win. Let's say they go 10-2 and miss out on the Big 12 title game for some reason. Or 9-3, and they're fighting for position for a major bowl game. That North Dakota State win is going to be better than a lot of lower level Power 4 wins. It's going to be better than almost every G5 win you can think about. So those are quality wins. Baylor, who is now 5-4, sitting there back over 500. They already have a win over Cincinnati, who's going to be another bowl eligible team. They went to war with Kansas State, and even though they fell short by 3 points, they've been to war with quality ball teams, and they've beat most of them. So all this stuff is just bullshit. I think people don't want to own up to their biases, and I think it really does boil down to Prime, right? Because we know if Shadur Sanders was at any other school,
he'd be a
quarterback conversation right now.
Yeah.
If Travis Hunter was at any other school, and I mean any other school,
the
Heisman race would be over. Nobody would be able to talk about it. But people hate him that much, Prime that is. I think they just don't want to own up to that. And that's okay, because it's fueling that program and it's fueling that fan base. They're breaking records. They're about to play on TV for the record time. They just flexed them into the 10 o'clock window next week against Utah, who is a losing team this year. So that's how big the brand is now, and how much that hate has kind of fueled the viewing process and the crowd and the amount of revenue that they're generating for that program. It's probably the best thing that could have happened to Prime and those guys.
And also, too, you talk about how bad the defense was. You got to give credit to Warren Sapp for the way he's turned that around. And I even saw that in one of their vlogs. He was like, nah, like, we changed some stuff around, and, who said my defense can't do this? And they really, like, they're all on one accord. And, even when they talked about the Heisman conversation, Deion said it the best, like, oh, well, they're not considered? Oh, yeah, because they're my sons. So that just really has that thing levering over it. Bang, my question for you, I know you weren't high on them, but what have you seen that it's kind of like, I don't know, like that you see has changed since the beginning of the season?
Man, that's a hard question to think about because it's a lot. Come
like
back
to defensively. We'll come back.
I mean, because it's more of a question that I have.
Okay.
More than anything, because to me this has been surprising. So, Kai, I actually have that question for you. It has to be more than just the transfer portal. Like, from a coaching staff standpoint, what do you feel has been different from this team to help them get over the hump on the side of the ball, as that was just disastrous last year?
Well, one, it's a culture thing. Like, I think people say that word all the time in sports and music. You hear it all the time. It's a lot of cliche, a lot of bullshit a lot of time, right? But that's my favorite thing about this team and this program right now, is that they haven't changed at all. It's the same. It's the same stuff that the foundation and the principles they were building on last season. It's a belief in the system. It's a belief in the talent. These coaches went out and got the entire defense, right, is comprised of transfers from G5 level, P5 level, FCS transfers. They went out and found the guys that they think fit that culture the best, and they put them in a room and made them compete for the spots. And this is the result that they got. Like, it's about competition. It's about culture. It's about belief. He took a first-year defensive coordinator, Coach Livingston, a young white guy who not many people believed in, gave him a defensive coordinator job, and the defense has turned around. He went out and got Warren Sapp and those guys. That defensive line, it has real depth.
Okay, so that's
real depth.
So I'm glad that you said Warren Sapp, because I didn't want to say anything and then it be out of turn. That's why I want to ask you that question. So I will ask you about the Warren Sapp effect. Warren Sapp is a Hall of Fame defensive tackle, 3-tech, one of the best defensive tackles in NFL history. The trenches on the offense and the defensive line of the ball was where they struggled at last year. Shedeur couldn't get the ball off without getting touched, and that defensive line couldn't move anybody. Mm-hmm. But how, I guess the question is, how has Warren Sapp and his knowledge of the game, his knowledge of the trenches, and his Super Bowl pedigree, has that been a big factor in what we've been seeing? Because I don't want to call him a celebrity coach, but I mean, you don't necessarily think like this dude has a real full effect on the team, but when you look at that defensive line, they're getting after it. So has Warren Sapp been an effective member of this defensive coaching staff? And what do you see going forward? Because now people are talking about potential playoff berths and stuff too.
Right. So that's a twofold question. I'll answer it two ways. One, Warren Sapp is not a guy that lacks for coaching experience. We all know who he was as a player, but this is not really a widely discussed, widely known thing. But he's bounced around the NFL, and he was doing, an internship with the Washington Commanders. He's done stints with the Colts. He's done stints with the Miami Dolphins. He's been around a lot of places in the NFL, whether it be for a month stretch in the offseason or a pass rush specialist during the season. He's been around to where he's been in rooms. He's helped game plan before. He's helped specifies, pass rush patterns, pass rush plans for NFL guys. He has been around enough rooms, and you couple that with his his playing experience. This wasn't something that was out of his depth. He has been prepared for this. He had been working for this, and I think he just found the perfect opportunity for a guy. And he talks about how working with younger guys has helped him kind of reignite his love and his passion for teaching, not because he always going to love football, but for teaching the game. He was fishing every day and spot coaching here and there, but he loves those guys, right? So I think when you see the young guys, you want to help them succeed, that works. And so the experience that he had coaching, and then the drive that he has for teaching young guys, and two, receiving it, right? Like, you're always going to be more receptive to somebody who's done it before, preferably done it at a high level. And there hasn't been many people that have done it at a higher level than Warren Sapp. So you can have a young coach who never played before teach the game. They could be a damn good coach, but it's always going to mean a little bit more coming from a Hall of Famer, a guy that you've seen do it, a guy that you've seen go through adversity, some hardships, and bounce back from it. So this shit means something to him, because he still, he bounced back. He's done the media thing. He could live off, for his savings for the rest of his life now. Like, he's financially stable again. Like, he could do that, but he wants to be there. He wants to be helping. He wants to teach you. And that's always going to mean a lot more coming from a guy like Warren Sapp.
So cool. Triple double hat trick, I know the code too. Ice trade, go for trade. Yeah, we cold too. Getting paper on these player haters, old news. Money on the other line, so I'm not gonna hold you. Money on the other line, so I'm not gonna hold you. Money on the other line, so I'm not gonna hold you. Money on the other line, so I'm not